My quest as a spiritual seeker started at a pretty young age. I had a dream that I was walking through the rafters of this enormous attic. And I can remember being in this attic and feeling like it went forever out before me with everything that I could see. And the sun was coming in a window on one side and giving sort of a magical glow to everything that was going on in the scene before me. And I was the only person in this attic. And so I was filled with anticipation and excitement that I had discovered a treasure, and it was all mine. I had that dream about 10 times before I figured out what it meant. And then I never had the dream again. The dream was a metaphor for my life. It was a metaphor for all of the undiscovered places within myself that were waiting, hiding, crouching, wanting to be dusted off and uncovered, discovered, found, brought forward, and integrated into my life and into who I was. I am here today because I believe nothing is more important than this journey of inward discovery. When I turned 44, it occurred to me that I didn't have very much time left here on the planet. And so I better get started if I was going to go on this quest, because I had this dream when I was 12 and now I was 44, and it seemed like time went by very quickly. 44 was actually a very surreal perspective on my life, because that was the age that my father was when he died. So looking upon the landscape of my life, crossing the age that my father was when he passed away, gave me sort of an interesting perspective on things. Today we're going to talk about energy and synchronicity and magic. We're going to talk about the power of our thoughts beyond just positive thinking. I am going to decode for you a quote that I believe unlocks some secrets to the universe. And I'm going to share with you my own personal story about why I am so passionate about this journey of self-discovery and connecting to that which makes us come alive, that which gives us life. So what's in it for you? The opportunity perhaps to shift your paradigms. Maybe look at things differently than you did when you walked in here this morning. The realization that we are, consciously or unconsciously, creating the results that we experience in our lives. The awareness that there is a power within us that we have access to. And lastly, it's my intention to inspire within you the motivation, maybe just the spark, to take that journey into your own heart, to uncover your secrets, and to come into alignment with what you would love to create in your life. So I invite you to play along. Everything is energy. Everything. And therefore, so are our thoughts. What if our thoughts were the currency by which we put our order in with the universe? Quantum physics and quantum mechanics have made major strides recently in proving that our thoughts create our reality. A study done called the observer effect, or the matrix of unlimited potentiality, states that everyone sees exactly what they expect to see. Everyone gets exactly what they expect to get every single time. I would offer to you that reality is not objective or factual. It is subjective, and it is open to interpretation by the observer. My name is Donna Bond, and today I would like to share with you a glimpse into a thinking technology that I am not only a student of, but that has profoundly changed my life. What would you love to create in your life? What would you love? You have far more potential than anything you can even comprehend. And I know this to be true because you are tapped into and connected to this thing called life. You can't make your heart beat even one beat on its own. We can't make ourselves take even one breath on our own. Ladies and gentlemen, we are being breathed. And the potential that we have within us is far greater than any condition or circumstance that you might find in your surroundings. When I was 16 years old, I fell in love with a Chinese wrinkle puppy. Chinese Shar-Pei. I had to have one. I went bananas over these dogs. I saw one and I had to have one. And I decided that I was gonna get one. This is 10 years before the launch of the World Wide Web. There's no Google, there's no Craigslist, but somehow I managed to acquire pictures and magazines and articles and classifieds so that I could try to get one of these damn dogs. I am kind of obsessed about this. I am thinking about this nonstop. I've got to have one. When this is happening in 1984, these dogs cost about $1,800. I'm a 16-year-old kid in high school. I don't have $1,800. And even if I did have $1,800, the chances of my parents letting me spend that kind of money on the family dog, probably not going to happen in my house. So, over time, I slowly relaxed my grip. I never gave up hope, but I released my intensity around it, let it go out into the universe. About 9 months had gone by. I was on the phone with a friend of mine, we're chatting, and he says to me during the course of our conversation, hey, a friend of mine, my sister's boyfriend rather, is looking to give away a fully grown dog. They're trying to find a home for it. Do you know of anybody who might be interested in taking in this dog? I immediately said no. It didn't even occur to me to ask any more questions. We're finishing up through the course of our conversation. We're about to hang up. And he says to me, all right, well, don't forget about the Sharpie. I said, the what? He said, the Sharpie, the dog that I told you about, that they're trying to find a home for. I said, do you mean Shar-Pei? He said, I don't know, Donna. It's one of those dogs with all the wrinkles all over it. You think this is a coincidence? I went and picked up the dog. I didn't check with my parents. I just went and got him. This picture on the bottom right-hand corner is my dog Jabba. She was our family pet for about a decade. So do you think this is a coincidence? We all do this. We all do this. If we went around this room right this minute, every single one of you could offer me a story about something that you had a lot of energy around, something that you were passionate about, that you had a great desire for in your life, and somehow, through some strange coincidence, or serendipity, or synchronicity, whatever this was, managed to find its way into your experience. We all do this. But most of the time, we do it unconsciously. What if we could do it consciously? Back in the 1800s, there were a group of men who used to get together at a home in Concord, Massachusetts on Sunday nights. They would get together in the home of Ralph Waldo Emerson. These great minds would come together to try to unlock the secrets of man and the secrets of the universe. These conversations became so well known around the country that they became known as the Concord Conversations. If you grew up in New England like I did, you might even remember hearing about this in grammar school because they taught it then. This was going on during a time when the Transcendentalist movement was actually being born. So people who would attend these Sunday night great mind think tanks were people like Nathaniel Hawthorne, people like the Alcotts. And Emerson used to even allow his handyman to participate in on these conversations because they couldn't deny that the handyman had a lot of really good, valuable contributions. But he was not considered wealthy enough or educated enough to actually be in the room with everyone. So he used to sit just outside the parlor at the bottom of the staircase where he could still participate with what was going on in the room. That man's name was Henry David Thoreau. This is going on during a time where America was becoming the seedbed as a place where people could go to pioneer their dreams. There was a certain energy about that time. That same energy exists in all of you. These men would sit in this living room and they would think, they wanted to ask important questions. They believed that the quality of question that one could ask would dictate the quality of one's life. The questions that are posed to our own selves, the questions that are posed to the universe. When we pose a question, we have just created the space for possibility. We have created the vacuum for the universe to fill that space for us when we pose a question. 800 years ago, there was a Persian poet named Rumi who had a quote. It's as if a king has sent you to a far and distant land with one thing to accomplish. You could do 100 other things that men will tell you are great, but if you fail to accomplish this one thing for which you've been sent, in the end, it will be as if you've accomplished nothing. It's as if a king, the G-O-D, the grand overall designing force, power, one presence in the universe, has sent you and me to a far and distant land, planet Earth, human birth, with one thing, uniquely you, like your fingerprint, with one thing to accomplish. And you could do 100 other things that men will tell you are great, but if you fail to accomplish this one thing, in the end, it will be as if you've accomplished nothing. So what is that one thing? What is that one thing? It is the discovery and the delivery of you, of who you really are. And the good thing about it is, it will inform you by what you're interested in. It will guide you through your longings and your discontent. And the great thing about it is, the more in harmony you are with you, the better things get. The happier you feel, the healthier you become. And you will begin to find that nothing else feels this good when you take that journey, when you come into alignment, into harmony with the secrets of your own heart. So Thoreau did not want to just talk about this. He wanted to actually experiment with these ideas. So he built himself a cabin in the woods, and he went to go live there for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 weeks. And he did what he called living deliberately. And while he was there, he wrote an essay that you may have heard of called Walden. And hidden within that essay is a quote that I am sure every single person in this room has heard. My mentor, Mary Morrissey, opened my eyes to the fact that there is a code buried within this quote. There's a code on how it works in the universe. And when I came into this information, boy, I was so excited. Like the hair on the back of my neck was standing up. I was so excited. I was so excited because I realized that I had been doing this. I had been doing this the whole time. Only now, I could stop doing it haphazardly, and I could realize that there was actually a formula to it, a proven, repeatable, predictable formula to it. So I'm going to share the quote with you today, and then we're going to unpack it. I have learned this, at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams, endeavoring to live a life they are imagining, one crosses an invisible boundary, and all sorts of things begin to occur that would not otherwise occur. One begins to meet with success unexpected in common hours. New, more universal, more liberal laws begin to establish themselves around this person, or the old laws are rearranged in one's favor. Nevertheless, one begins to live with the license of a higher order of being. I have learned this, at least by my example, that if this is your choice, this is your life, but this is your choice. Some people live 90 years. Other people live 1 year, 90 times. If one advances confidently, fear is never going to go away. It is part of our human experience here on planet Earth. Fear is nothing more than the outside edges of our familiarity. And we may be in a situation in our lives that's uncomfortable, that we don't like, but because it's familiar, we stay there. Because we're afraid to cross over the boundary into the places where we've never been before. But if we're going to grow and expand and keep getting bigger, a bigger version of our own selves, it is a requirement that we push past those boundaries of fear, that we step forward into the uncharted territory. Advancing confidently doesn't mean that the fear goes away. Advancing confidently means you see the fear, you acknowledge it, and you do it anyway. advances confidently in the direction of their dream. This is a good one. You gotta pick something. You gotta pick a direction. The universe doesn't do wishy-washy. The universe doesn't do the hokey pokey. You got the 1 foot in, you got the 1 foot out. The universe doesn't like that. The universe likes specificity. I'm here to tell you, because I was confused. I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in for 5 years. You gotta pick something. There's a saying that no wind is favorable to the sailor with no destination in mind. Even if you pick something and it's not the end all, the universe will redirect you. But you gotta pick something. If you get in your car and you don't know where you're going, you're just gonna drive around. We don't wanna pick a direction because we wanna guarantee that it's all gonna work out. We wanna know in advance that it's all gonna work out and that we're gonna go unscathed and it's gonna be easy. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. That's why we gotta get muddy sometimes. Pick something, pick a direction. Endeavors to live the life they are imagining. Endeavors. Endeavor means to make an attempt. And oftentimes, we don't want to make an attempt, or we don't know what attempt to make when we're moving in a direction that we've never been before, and we see all these steps that have to take place between where we are now and where we want to be. We get overwhelmed and we stop. Endeavoring means to make an attempt, even if that only means putting it on energetically. Endeavoring means that you have to demonstrate to the universe that you're serious about the direction that you've picked. So stay here today in the now and forget about the 52,000 things that you think have to occur that are going to get you from here to here. Just pick one thing today. Just one thing today. Do what you can with what you have from where you are. That's it. Little tiny 3-foot toss, baby steps. One thing with what you have from where you are. To live the life they are imagining. Whew, our imagination, it's a gift. It's like something that they pack in the human being toolkit when they send you to Earth. Everybody gets one. Unfortunately, in this country, we get told from a very small, young age, hey you, pay attention, no daydreaming. Our imagination is connected to our hearts. Our imagination knows the secrets that are buried within. If we would just let it run away, we would get to it. But we misuse our imaginations, don't we? We misuse them because it's really easy for us to be dreaming up a drama, as I like to say, right? Dreaming up a drama. Things don't go your way, you don't get the phone call on time, maybe you're sitting in traffic. In about 5 seconds, you can dream up a drama, can't you? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why can't we sit around and dream up what we would love? What would we love to create? One passes an invisible boundary. What's the invisible boundary? Ladies and gentlemen, it is our thinking. It is our thinking. We all have our self-imposed limitations about what we think can and cannot happen, or what we can do or do not. It is our thinking. In India, cows are considered sacred, and elephants are the beasts of burden. They do all the heavy lifting, they pull the plows. When they train these elephants, they tether them with these ropes to a big stake in the ground. And these little baby elephants, they pull and they tug and they pull and they tug, and they do everything that they can to try to break free from the rope and the stake. But ultimately, they can't because they're little babies. This rope is stronger and the stake is in the ground. Well, as they grow up, that elephant could break free of that scenario quicker than you or I could snap a toothpick in our fingers. But it doesn't, because it doesn't think it can. I would offer to you that we all have this limited thinking in our mind about what we think we can or what we think we can't. Imagine for me that I have this big glass jug. I'm going to set it right here. This big glass jug. And in that jug is a live goose. And the jug it's thick. It's got big, thick, heavy glass. And it's got a bottom to it, and it's got a very narrow neck. And the question is, how do we get the goose out of the jug without harming the goose or breaking the jug? You might be able to get your hand down through the top of the jug, but you're not going to be able to pull the goose out without harming the goose, and we don't want to harm the goose. You can't get the goose out the bottom of the jug because you got this big, thick, heavy glass. So the question is, how do we get the goose out of the jug without harming the goose or breaking the jug? You imagine him out, because that's how you got him in there. This world is plastic to our thinking. And I would offer to you that our minds don't know the difference between truth or fiction. One begins to meet with success unexpected in common hours. Common hour thinking, common man thinking. We are a very circumstance-predicted society. We check with our circumstances to see if we can be or do or have or give whatever we would like to do in this life. We check with our checkbooks. We check with the media. We check with the economy. What Thoreau is saying is that there is a whole other way for us to predict our future. New, more universal, more liberal laws begin to establish themselves around this person, or the old laws are rearranged. This is my favorite part. The old laws are rearranged. This is where the universe rises up to meet you. This is where the right people show up, the right doors open, the path rises up to meet you. This is where the serendipity and the synchronicity and the magic occurs in our lives, if we just allow it. This is where you get a call out of the clear blue sky that somebody's looking to give away a Chinese wrinkle puppy. One begins to live with the license of a higher order of being. Remember when you got your license? The freedom, the power, the forward motion. You can have it. It's your birthright. You just have to decide. Right after I turned 23 years old, my father died. It happened very quickly. He had lung cancer, but from the time that we found out that he was sick to the time that he died, it was about 90 days. Very fast. And 3 days after his funeral, my mother came to my sisters and I, and she said, pick yourselves up, dust yourselves off, and get back to your life. She looked at my sisters and said, get back to school. And she looked at me and she said, get back to work. So that's exactly what I did for 25 years, with my head down, with my nose to the grindstone, working on climbing rung after rung on the ladder. And I did very well for myself for being the granddaughter of 2 Italian-American immigrants on both sides of my family. I did great. I had big jobs and big paychecks and nice titles, worked for some amazing companies. I didn't think anything of dropping everything for the next best job. I would get a call, do you want to go to Memphis, Tennessee, or do you want to go to Fort Lauderdale, Florida? Pick one. And I would drop everything to just jet off to the next best job. I sacrificed friendships and relationships. I sacrificed community and even a marriage once. And then in 2008, I got a wake-up call when I met my now husband, Paul Bond. And as I watched him step forward and claim his gifts and blossom as an oil painter and a poet and a writer, I was in awe of his ability to touch people's lives. I was in awe of the difference that he was making in the world. And somewhere deep inside of me, he awoke a stirring within me that said, I wanted that same thing. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I wanted to make people think, to choose differently, to create awarenesses that perhaps weren't there before. So in 2010, the company that I was working for at the time as the West Coast Vice President of Sales and Marketing closed their doors. Myself and 60 other people, we all lost our jobs. And for the first time in my life, I was no longer willing to just pack up and go. I was in love with California. I was in love with Paul Bond. We were building this incredible life here, this wonderful art business. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to walk out like I had done so many times before. So I took a little bit of a sidestep. After not being at the property level for almost a decade, I went back to work at the hotel level. I happened to go to a hotel that Condé Nast and Travel and Leisure consider one of the best hotels in the world. I was fortunate enough to report to a physically beautiful location. I was working alongside the best talent in the industry. I was making great money, great bonus checks, having a ton of recognition and success. But I still had a hollow hole in my heart. And I was embarrassed. I was afraid to admit that I had all this. And it wasn't doing it for me. It was hard to admit that my circumstances were so delicious. I had circumstances that everybody wanted. Who was I to say I wasn't happy with them? I told myself when I went to that hotel that I would only go there for 1 year. On year 3, I started to get this weird pain in my shoulder. And I did what any good workaholic would do. I ignored it. I went on, and slowly over time, this problem started to rule my life. It started to interrupt my life in a way that I couldn't ignore it any longer. I developed a frozen shoulder. I couldn't lift my arm past here. And I was getting tired. I was worn out. I was exhausted, trying to work 50 hours a week and still maintain some sense of being a whole person. But it wasn't working. A year ago this week, I was on my way. I had a week that was an epiphany in my life. And it started on a Monday. My husband and I were reading Pam Grout's book, E2, 9 do-it-yourself experiments that prove that your thoughts create your reality. And one of these experiments was demanding something from the universe, placing a time limit on it, and then waiting for the universe to deliver whatever it is. The secret is that you can't have any attachment to whatever it is you're trying to manifest. So, quite randomly, I demanded that the universe bring me an apple. It's kind of random. I don't even really like apples. So the chances of somebody handing one to me was slim and none. And the next day, I was getting on an airplane to go to a meeting in Dallas, Texas. So I'm on the plane, and I am in a lot of pain. I'm in a lot of pain, and what am I doing? I'm jetting off to go to some meeting where I'm not going to sleep enough, I'm going to drink too much, I'm going to wear down my body that's already worn down when I should be seeking well-being and health care. But I'm on this plane, and I'm reading Ken Atkinson's book called Finding Your Element. And I had high hopes for this book, Finding Your Element, right? Because I've been on this eternal quest to find my element. I'm on the last 3 pages of this book, and I am no closer to finding my element than I was at the beginning of the book. But I'm reading, and Atkinson is talking about navigating our lives is a little bit like navigating the open seas. Some people like to cling close to the shore, and others like to set a more exploratory course. Mark Twain used this same quote in his metaphor. 20 years from now, you're going to be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things that you did. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. And I'm reading this, and I am feeling a bubbling in my chest. I'm feeling that emotion. I'm hearing that still small voice talking to me. So I keep reading. And I get to this little Emerson quote that says, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lie within us." And then I got to the clincher. This little 8-liner by Anna E. Nin. And then the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And the combination of the pain that was in my shoulder made me feel like I was in that bud. And then I knew that it didn't matter if I quit my job. It didn't matter what anybody said about me. I knew that it was the only answer for me to go on that quest and to discover what it was for me that was going to make me come alive. So I decided right there in that moment, on that airplane, during that day, when I was reading these pages in this book, I decided. So I got off the plane and I went to the meeting, and I approached the meeting in a very different way than what I would normally go to a meeting of this kind. Normally I'm running to the front of the class and getting the best seat so I can be nice and close to the speaker, feverishly taking notes, strategizing about all the things I'm going to implement when I get back to the property. None of this is going on. I had taken the seat of the observer. I had taken the seat of the observer of my own life. And I just watched. I watched the people around me that had built the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. And I had a pang of sadness for them because we were going through a time when there was budget cuts happening for no reason. And it caused me a great deal of remorse. But I took that role of the observer and I reflected upon my career, upon all of the successes that I had had. And I was proud of myself for everything that I had accomplished. But I knew that it was time for me to go do something else. And I was sure of that when I went through this conference. I was sure of it. So it's the last night of the conference. We're having a beautiful gala dinner, typical Ritz-Carlton style, 4-course meal with wine pairings. And I'm chatting next to this gentleman who's sitting next to me who's recovering from a tragic motorcycle accident. And he's telling me about pain management, and we're talking about energy medicine and holistic healing, and he's showing me the titanium that he has in his arm and in his leg. And I'm thinking to myself, this is so much better than talking about sales and marketing. And then my name was called to the stage. And I went up, and on behalf of the Ritz-Carlton Laguna Niguel, I received the Marketing Achievement Award for the 3rd consecutive year in the row. And as I carried that award back to my seat, I was even further grounded in my decision that I had made on that plane that it was time for me to get off of this stage. At the time, I didn't know that I was looking to get on to another one, but it was time for me to get off of that one. So I sat back down where they had just served dessert, and I looked down at my place setting, and there, no lie, was an apple composition with apple confit and a green apple sorbet. And I just let the tears stream down my face because I knew there is something more that we are connected to. And it's vibrating me right now. What would you do if you didn't believe it was impossible? What would you do? I would like to lead you all right now on a guided tour of your imagination. I would like to ask you to think about what would you love to create in your life? What would you love? If you've got your legs crossed, go ahead and uncross them. Put your feet firmly on Mother Earth. Put your back up against the chair and rest your hands gently in your lap. And go ahead and close your eyelids. You are in a safe place. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath. Deep breath in. Go ahead and let that out. Yeah, it's okay to make a noise when you let it out. That's what makes it feel so good. Let's do another one. Take a deep breath in. Go ahead and let that out. I see you giggling, Raul Rathman. One more. Take a deep breath in. And let's let it out. Imagine yourself in a large attic space. The peaked roof is high, and the room stretches backwards and forward, further than you can see. You smell the old wooden beams, and you hear the faint sounds of birds outside on this new morning. The sun is filtering in through a few high windows, giving just enough light to see that there are many boxes and crates stacked around this space, and you have the feeling as if you have just discovered a treasure. Just in front of you, a shaft of sunlight is shining directly on one small box that stands out alone in the center of the room. It's not very big, but it's beautifully made, almost like a small pirate's treasure chest. You sit down cross-legged on the floor in front of this box. You marvel at its beauty, and you have a sense of serenity in your discovery of it. Your heart quickens a little because you know that inside that box there is something very, very valuable. You intuitively know that inside this box there is the reminder of your dream, of a deep desire that you have that perhaps you buried away. The dream that you never pursued because you thought it was unattainable or unrealistic or impossible. It's a wanting for something that if you don't experience or at least get a taste of, you will forever have a void in your heart. At the end of your life, if you have not at least tried to bring forward this dream, this key to your aliveness, that you will know that you have left a part of your life unlived, that your life wasn't as rich as it could have been had you had the courage to believe that this was possible. As you pick up the box, you blow off a thin layer of dust that had settled upon it. Feeling the weight of it in your lap, you carefully undo the intricately carved silver latch, and slowly you open the box. Inside, you see a message that you were meant to find again today, on this very day. This message or this object, this clue, may be in the form of a short note. Perhaps it's just a single word. Perhaps it's a letter written in your own handwriting. Maybe you see a photograph, a magazine cutout. What do you see? What would you love? Maybe it's a picture of a sailboat moored off of a tropical island. Maybe it's a couple in love. Perhaps the message being conveyed is teacher, piano, travel. Maybe it's an entire company, or simply radiant health and well-being. Whatever brings your aliveness can be relatively simple or quite elaborate. Both are equally attainable. As you read the words or look at the picture or hold this object, take a moment to imagine what it will feel like to be living that desire as if it's already happening. What does it feel like? Let the happiness wash over you. Feel the joy and the fulfillment arise as you see yourself experiencing this precious idea, this gift that you've denied yourself for so long. Now you'll gently place that note or that photo or that object back in the box, and you're going to close up the latch. If you're ready, take that box and hold it up against your chest. Imagine that it's slowly disappearing into your body, into your heart. As we prepare to leave our attic, you go with the knowing that you possess this gift to make this happen. Bringing forward this experience is your gift. It may require some help from others, or it may require letting go of lesser concerns in your life. But you know in your heart that this experience can be yours if you simply decide it will be so. This is your dream to manifest your wish. All that is left is simply the decision to take the first step. Simply decide and then move forward into living a life with a higher order of being. Begin it now. Take just 5 more seconds to anchor that in. And when you're ready, you can bring your awareness back into the room and open your eyes. I invite you, when you leave this room today, to spend some quality time with yourself. Some quality time imagining, really, what would you love to create? We spend more time planning a weekend getaway or posting shit on Facebook than we do really thinking about what we would love to create in our lives. We're going to breathe for the next 365 days, and we're going to all wake up a year from now, and we're going to be another year older. We're going to have another year less to spend here in our physical world reality, in our experience as a spiritual being having a human experience. You can create your life by design or by default. So where does my story end? How did it all turn out? Well, I did step down from my position at the Ritz-Carlton Laguna Niguel. I was there for exactly 4 years, almost to the day. In 90 days, I will graduate with my master's degree in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. Right now, I am in the process of redesigning my entire life as a speaker, a teacher, and a coach in personal transformation. But what I know, above all else, is that it's not about the destination. It's never been about the destination. And it sounds cliche, you know, you hear it's about the journey. Well, guess what? It really is. It's about the becoming. It's about the discovery of who we really are along that path that we call our life. It's about getting out of our comfort zones and finding out what brings you aliveness. What blows your skirt up? What gets you excited and makes you want to jump out of bed? We are spiritual beings having a human experience. If we can view our lives from that vantage point, it makes it really interesting. It makes it really interesting. So go out into the world, follow your heart, figure out what you love, dream it up. I dare you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I am so grateful that you all made it here through the traffic and taking your Sunday morning and giving it to me. I am so grateful, and I love you all so much. Thank you. There's a question in the front row.
If we want more, how do we get that? Where do we go from here?
Yes, Vicki, thank you so much. Vicki's question was, if we want more, where do we go from here? I am teaching a program, a class, a technology, a thinking technology called the Dreambuilder. And it is Mary Morrissey's program, who opened my eyes to the quote that I decoded for you. Actually, there's a couple of ladies in the room that have already completed the Dreambuilder program. And I see another lady who's going to be starting on the May 15th class coming up. It's a 12-week program where you listen to audio for about 30 minutes, and then you show up each week on a call and you get coaching from me. And this technology walks you through the process of bringing forward and manifesting what you want to create in your life. And what's so great about it is that it's a skill set. It's not like you just bring one thing forward and then you're done, right? Because as we continue to grow and expand and push out ourselves and become more of who we really are, we have to get into that uncharted territory and cross over those boundaries of unfamiliarity. So this program teaches you the skills that you need to be able to keep reinventing and recreating and dreaming up new things again and again in your life. Thank you. And if anyone's interested, there's a flyer on the table, of course. You can take the girl out of marketing, but you know. There is champagne and pastries. If there's no more questions. Thank you very much. Thank you.